Jonathan, good morning.
Father Jeff, buenos dias.
How are you?
Morning has broken.
And we are your consecrated hosts, Father Jeff, consecrated by holy orders. Blah, blah, blah.
I'm Jonathan. I was consecrated by
We cannot
baptism
talk today.
We didn't do our vocal warm-ups.
End of April.
No,
we haven't talked to each other yet this morning. We haven't spoken at all.
it's because it's winter.
It's not winter. What?
This is a Texas winter right now.
I didn't even wear a jacket today.
But you did leave your phone on. Well, when the bishop calls, you answer. So, Father Jeff just went to answer a call from the Archbishop George Lucas. I believe it was Mary Dolan who made that graphic for us. So yeah, thank you, Mary. If it's not Mary Dolan, I'm sorry. I'm going to look it up really quick. Very, very quickly. Let's see. It is Mary Dolan. So you can thank Mary Dolan for that graphic. We were excited to put it up for you guys. Yeah. So, morning is broken. Father Jeff, Jonathan. We had a great show for you today. We're going to talk all sorts of things, but I guess I'll just open it up to some questions or comments while we just wait for Father Jeff, because I don't know how long that call is going to be. And I don't want to get into too much of what's going on. So yes. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to know? Questions? Okay. Well, I'm waiting to see if anyone has anything. Good morning. Remember to help us out. Like us, share us, subscribe to us. And there's nothing from you guys. So, tell Archbishop we said hi. He's gone. Yeah, I think one of the things that we've talked a little bit about was someone asked if we could go through the whole Mass and just do little segments or do things like that. And that's something actually I was interested in doing beforehand. Tell us about yourself. I do like talking about myself, so maybe I'll share a little bit of my life story with you guys. But I have a great book that I really enjoyed that just kind of talked about the new version of the Mass. There's a lot of great resources on Formed about the Mass, but that's something that I'm looking forward to doing. And so Fran asked to learn a little bit about myself, and so we'll go with that. So I was born and I can get to my profession as well. So I was born in 1985 in Mexico City to an American mom and Mexican dad, and my mom worked for the U.S. Embassy there. I was born, actually, there's this huge earthquake in Mexico City in 1985, in September of 1985. I was born the day after, or 2 days after if you want to be technical, because I was born at 12:35 in the morning. And so at the embassy, I was known as the earthquake miracle baby. And so yeah, I moved to the United States when I was 3 and lived in Houston, Texas my whole life up until then. My family wasn't really, my grandparents were very Catholic. They went to Mass every Sunday. My mom tried. We did some things. My parents separated pretty shortly afterwards, and they got divorced eventually. I went to Catholic school, but we weren't really practicing our faith. We were doing a lot more with my mom tried to instill values, but she had a lot of issues with depression and a lot of other things that really kept her from being able to be available to really grow in my faith. And I'm telling a little bit of my background story. I didn't know how long it would be.
I'm just saying that when the phone rings, there are two people that you must always answer for. My mother and the Archbishop, and I'll let you guess which one that was.
I already told him.
Oh, what if that was confidential?
I said when Archbishop calls, you answer. And then I didn't know what to talk about, so then I just got to moving to the United States when I was 3. So we will just hold that.
No, continue.
Okay.
Finish your story. I want to hear this.
So, I went to mass every now and then, but not really frequently. But like I said, my mom tried to instill those great values in me, and just always. I remember this one conversation. She said, "Well, you need to discern whether that's good or bad." I had no clue what discernment meant. I was like, "I don't know what that means." She's like, "How do you not know what discernment means?" But it was just kind of yeah. So Catholic school. I dealt with some depression in middle school, and just everyone deals with depression in middle school.
Oh, middle school is the worst time of life.
It is awful.
All you middle schoolers out there, it gets better. Trust me.
It does get better. So fast forward, freshman year of high school. It's a new beginning, new people. Everything's going pretty well, and things were going looking up. Summer after my freshman year of high school, my mom died suddenly. She had a heart condition we didn't know about. Heart attack. She died, and that really just flipped my life upside down because I had to move in with my dad, who he wasn't used to raising me. So it was a huge adjustment for both of us, and so. High school was that. I don't remember my sophomore year of high school at all. It was just a blur. It was not because I was drinking or doing anything else. It was just because dealing with all the change.
Sure.
It was just waking up and kind of in a daze.
Wow.
And so around that time, I started hearing people like, "Oh, I got confirmed." And I was like, "Well, what does confirmation mean?" "Oh, well, that means, it's you are redoing your baptismal vows from when your parents made them for you. You are now making them for yourself, and then you are saying, like, this is the life I want to live." That's what I got anyway.
That's what you got.
And I was like, well, I want to do that. Because I remembered the day my mom died, I said, "God, I don't know how I'm going to get through this, but I'm going to need you to get through this." And I was never angry at God. I never, it was some kind of grace. Because I was able to deal with it. I had a lot of depression and everything else after that, but it was by the grace of God.
Yeah.
Anyways, a friend of mine from school said, "Hey," he knew I like sports and doing things. He's like, "There's a church softball league. Do you want to play?" I was like, "Sure." I wasn't going to church at the time. This was even after I'd gotten confirmed myself.
Okay.
So I went through confirmation. Most of the people I got confirmed with didn't care about confirmation. They were just doing it because their parents made them.
And it was time to finish up
this
thing.
It didn't. It was probably good for me, but the atmosphere, the people I was around weren't building me up.
Sure.
So I started playing with this church softball league. The team was kind of a misfit team because they had stopped going to one parish. They didn't have a parish to host them, so we were St. Elsewhere and the Lost Souls. But eventually they started going to St. John Vianney, and we'd finish the softball games on Sunday, and then they'd be like, "Hey, we're going to church," or doing something, and I'd just go home. But invitation after invitation, I started going to church, and I started going to the youth group, and these people weren't all weird. There's some weird people. There's always some weird people, but there were some people that were pretty normal. The youth minister was really cool, and we actually had 2 youth ministers. Huge parish down in Houston. And so I started getting involved, and I had a community, and started really learning what my worth was, where my identity in Christ. I found it in Christ, and so started going to youth group, and that was my social life. Get to college, I applied to Franciscan. This was, because my life was so messed up still, I didn't apply anywhere my senior year of high school. I just whatever. It didn't happen. So I went to community college for a semester, and it was rough because there is no community in community college.
Especially if you're commuting from home.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was just dying inside, and so I said, midway through the semester, I applied to the University of St. Thomas there in Houston, and Franciscan University in Steubenville. And I got accepted to both, but Franciscan they didn't have any openings until the next fall. I couldn't wait that long, so I went to St. Thomas with my heart set being a youth minister. I was like, I want to be a youth minister. That's what changed my life.
Absolutely.
I want to help other people. Get to college, get distracted. There wasn't a lot going on with campus ministry. They had a couple retreats, but in between the retreats, there was nothing. And so it got mixed up in just the distractions, stopped going to mass, life happens, girls happen, and one day after a while, I was helping out with a freshman orientation, and there was Mass. I go into the chapel, and I'm looking up at Jesus, and I'm just like, man, Jesus, where have you been? And this whole time, I've just been like, oh, I have a good relationship with God. We're good. God and I were tight. But then it hit me, and it's just like a slap across the face. Where have you been? Where have you been? Pointing to me.
I'm the one absent from you.
I don't know if it was that day or the next day. I broke up with my girlfriend, or I told her I needed a break. A couple days later, she asked if I was feeling better yet. I was like, it doesn't work that way. I was like, okay, it's over. And then I started hanging out with the Focus Missionaries. I would hang out with the Focus Missionaries before, whenever
and for those of you who don't know what Focus is, Fellowship of Catholic
University
students. It's like missioning to university students.
Right.
Like missionaries on college campuses.
Right. And we had just gotten them on our campus the year before. And I'd hang out with them sometimes when my girlfriend was out of town or doing busy. Then I really started going, so I started going to daily Mass. And then they'd stay and pray afterwards. And I was like, we just received the Eucharist.
What are you doing?
Doesn't get any better than that. Like, you can just leave. And it's like, oh, no, actually, it's good to do like a prayer of thanksgiving, or like when something big happens, which receiving the Eucharist is the biggest thing that can happen. It's good to take a moment to kind of reflect.
Savor.
Yeah.
Savor it.
And so I learned the importance of that. Daily Mass. People go to Mass on Sundays. That's all you do. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
I grew so much by going to daily Mass and just being faithful to that you surround yourself with people and you just jump into the faith, and it builds you up so much. And I really started to flourish at that point. And so for the next 2 years, I had some disciples on campus. I was like, I want to be a Focus missionary. I applied, and I got rejected. And so for the next year, I got different jobs and still stayed discipling people on campus, still stayed involved. I had a lot of friends still in college. And then I applied again, and I got accepted. And so with Focus, you are kind of at their mercy. You go to interview weekend, you get accepted, you go to 5 weeks of training. Back then it was in Champaign, Illinois, the University of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of just, I called summer training heaven, because you are with 400 or 500 people at the time, Catholic men and women, striving to live out their faith.
All focused, common vision.
Focused.
Common vision.
Common vision.
Yep.
And it's just men serving women, women serving the men. It was just beautiful. And I got back, and then I got sent to Dubuque, Iowa. I called it Dubuque the first time, because I had never been. I'm from Houston, Texas. Didn't know anything about it.
I was told a story of when Archbishop Hannes was sent to Dubuque, that the Italian nuncio, the guy who represents the Pope in the United States, called him up and was talking to the bishop and said, the Pope is asking you to go to Dubuque. And he was like, oh my God, I'm being sent to Africa. Where are you sending me? To Dubuque, Iowa.
Yep, so missionary in Dubuque, I tore my ACL at that summer training, playing soccer. And so I was pretty much out of commission. I couldn't do the things that I wanted to do, playing sports, doing things like that with the students there. So I had to be creative and learn really how to invest and how to actually have intentional time. Not just do, we're just going to go play sports, not really have conversations. And so it was really a blessing in disguise. Did that for a year, then moved to Maryland because my fiance at that point then, Genevieve and I got engaged during that year. She was going to Divine Mercy University. It used to be called the Institute for IPS, Psychological Studies, IPS. But now it's Divine Mercy University. It's a Catholic grad school for psychology.
Nice.
And so she was going to be in school out there. I asked to be transferred. Went to the University of Maryland for 3 years. And there is where I truly learned discipleship and how to really have a structured thing in place to help people learn how to disciple other people.
Nice.
Because I knew how to do it. I didn't know how to teach other people how to do it, or how to teach them, those other people, to do it.
And that's like most things in life. We learn it by doing it, but then how do I mean, I think a lot of parents are figuring this out too with their kids at home and trying
Right.
to, it's like, how do I teach these kids? I'm not sure, because teaching isn't just, something that people go to school to be teachers. It's a
Right.
profession. There are some skills and there's some things. So teaching
Right.
another person is you have to learn it.
Right, and I thought I was doing great, and then you look down the chain, and people are supposed to be leading a Bible study and doing other things, and they weren't doing that at all. And so it's like, okay, we need to fix this. But that's really just how I came to love evangelization, discipleship, and the structures and figuring it out, how it all pieces together, because every place is different. After those 3 years, I went to Wisconsin, University of Platteville, Wisconsin, to start up Focus there. I was the team director there, and was blessed enough to learn how to start up from nothing. And that was really cool and
That's
a great
always
experience.
a good experience.
Moved to Omaha because during that year in Wisconsin, Joshua was born, and we wanted to be closer to family. And so Genevieve's family is from Omaha, and
And Omaha's better than Houston.
to raise a family, it really is. I'm not going to lie. Omaha is a great place to raise a family despite the winters in April.
Yeah, it's now winter.
It is.
I didn't even wear a jacket today.
Well,
And I have some rolled up sleeves.
you could be an Eskimo. So I started doing some just odd jobs here in Nebraska. I did a couple sales jobs. I worked for Home Builder. I worked at iHeartRadio for a little bit, and really just I did not like being in the secular world, especially in sales. It can be a little bit grimy, a little bit it wore heavy on my heart. And so I emailed Father Jeff one day. I was a parishioner here. And I said, hey, Father Jeff, I'd love to talk to you about evangelization and discipleship. And I'm looking for different opportunities. I know you're not have anything open, but I'd love to be able to have a conversation with you. And he granted me a meeting.
Granted him an audience.
And 3 years later, I am here now in front of you. And this is what you get.
Somehow this is how it works. You never ask and you shall receive. Knock and the door shall be opened unto you.
Right. And the biggest thing, my heart really desired to go back into ministry. That is the most fulfilling thing, is to see someone else journey from maybe not knowing Christ or having a little bit of a relationship to growing and seeing their life changed.
Yeah.
The quote that was told to me once during a retreat was, Jesus will wreck your life. And it's the best thing that will ever happen to you.
Yes, he will, and yes, it is.
It is the truth, and I love helping me even be a littlest part of that.
Yeah.
That is what excites me. That is what I live for. Because Jesus changed my life. There is no reason. You heard my backstory. There's no reason I should be here right now. If you look at the statistics, I should be part of that 85%, 90% that is no longer practicing.
Yeah.
But only by the grace of God am I here, and I couldn't be happier. So.
And responding to that grace, and then sharing that with other people. I think I love that the Lord takes us and He changes us. And we have all these life plans, and we have all of these things. And I think if every one of us took time and just looked at our life's journey, and we're able to tell, if you could tell your story in 15, 20 minutes to someone and just kind of lay it out, here's where the Lord led me, or here's how I progressed to be where I'm at.
Well, now the Focus interview weekends, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
So it is really time before Christ, time like 2 or 3 times that maybe God impacted your life, and what's been since then.
Wow.
I stretched it out a little bit today because I didn't know how much time I had to kill.
Jonathan, do you think you'd like to be a deacon someday?
Potentially. That's something that I need to discern more on. I know right now, with my wife and kids, there's no way that I could do it. It's just...
We kind of talked a little bit about that yesterday, just the demands of ministry and the ordained life, being ordained, ministering and participating in ministry, and being an ordained minister are two very different things, because as an ordained minister, it's not just what you do, it's also who you are. That I am a representative of the church. And so that's going to just demand more of me, and that's going to take from your family. It can't but. So, yeah, maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Because even with this job, I mean, the sacrifices I have to make sometimes, that Genevieve has to make, the kids have to make, because something's going on at the church, and it's something I gladly do.
Church life puts us on cockeyed hours sometimes.
Right. It's not 9 to 5 or anything like that, or 9 to 4, whatever our hours are, because it's it's just, that's how life is. I mean,
Absolutely.
and then God's providence. I went to school after being there for a little bit. There's not really a course you could take for youth ministry at the time. Now there
are lots of things like that.
But I went to school for broadcasting. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And so I learned a lot about video editing and TV production, things like that, which in all my years of ministry, I have never been tapped into use. I've never had that real opportunity to use. But
until now,
God really has provided the opportunity now to look at us. And it's paid off, because I know that some of these things would not have happened
this
if
is
it
so
wasn't
good.
for,
oh my gosh.
Just
putting all of this together, there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes, and so it's
exhausting.
A lot of work. Yeah, I know someone asked earlier, like, how long will the morning show continue? Don't know. I think the plan is that beginning next week we're going to roll it back a half hour. So we will roll it back to 9:30. Just because it's going to work with everything else that needs to
So we're
go
not
on.
rolling the show back half an hour, so it's only like a 2-minute show?
That's correct. We are moving it earlier, a half hour. So next week, and we'll talk more about this tomorrow as well, but next week we'll probably do a 9:30 to 10 o'clock show, just because it's going to work better with things going on here. And I don't know if it's going to be a Monday through Friday, if it's going to be a Tuesday through Friday. I don't know. As we start to think about how the parish now looks as we slowly begin to reopen, how does this kind of work that we've done in quarantine fit with now blending back into some of the live stuff that goes on, and yet taking care of those people who are still at home and should be at home, taking care of the people who are coming here little by little. So these are all the things that parishes are working on figuring out right now. So we probably should mention that just a little bit about the reopening phase. As you know, the governor has talked about opening churches on the 4th, on May 4th. So not this weekend, but that things may start to open up on May 4th. And all of the parishes are figuring out now how and when that is going to be possible. Right. So not everything is going to just open up wide on Monday morning. Not everything is even going to be opened up for the first weekend that we're able to come back.
Because there's a lot of details that you probably aren't thinking about.
There's a lot of things. And depending on the size of your parish, the setup of your parish, how things work, your volunteers, your age groups involved, there's a lot of things that need to be put in place. So whatever parish is your parish, first of all, listen to what your pastor is telling you, the communications that are coming to you of when that parish is going to open. We're figuring that out right now. We have not made any concrete decisions here at St. Charles yet. I hope to have some stuff by the end of today or tomorrow morning emailed out and sent out to our parishioners so you know what to expect. But we have to think about things of how are we going to clean between services, and how are we going to disinfect, and will we have enough ushers, and will we have enough this, and will we have enough that?
How do you decide who comes?
How do we decide who comes? Because we're going to be operating on limited space restrictions, and so we're putting all of these things together. To be real honest, some parishes are not going to be able to open for Sunday Mass on the 9th, 10th, which is our first weekend that we could technically be opened. And that's okay. One of the things that I know the Archbishop is asking us as pastors to do is to communicate to our parishes how and when we plan to be ready and what are the criteria that we are looking at, and to communicate that. And also to the faithful that be patient and stick with your parish, so that you see, oh my gosh, the parish down the road is going to be opened and ours is going to take another week. Let's all go to Mass over there.
Right.
No, don't do that. Stay in your parish until your parish is ready to go. Because when parishes start opening up, and it doesn't happen all at once, we are not going to be able to accommodate everyone all at once.
No, I mean,
so
most
this is going to
parishes
be a
won't be able to
gradual
accommodate all their own parishioners.
Exactly.
Much less others.
So please, and the Sunday dispensation is holding for right now. So maybe you're going to say, I want to go to Mass, but I don't want to go on the weekend because a lot of people will be out. I'm going to try to hit one of the daily Masses that might be open in my parish. So just kind of find ways to keep the crush down, but to maybe be involved. And don't go out if you shouldn't go out. If you've got health issues, if you have been sick or are sick, if you're working or living with the elderly, if you've got little itty-bitty tykes at home, there are reasons why you should not be out to begin with. So that's why we're going to continue to provide live streaming services so that whether you're out and about or whether you're at home, you need to do what is safe for you and safe for everyone else. We're taking care of each other, both physically and spiritually. So that's a thing.
Yeah.
So more on that, and particularly as we figure out things here at St. Charles, we'll keep you updated.
We'll touch base on it tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I'll be sending out emails. So if you don't get an email by tomorrow noon, Friday noon, you may want to check your email connections to make sure that you are in our database, because we will be talking about that.
Excellent.
Did you thank Mary Dolan?
I did.
Mary Dolan, the beautiful logo. Thanks.
I had
for
to look up
that.
and make sure it was her.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was.
Thank you.
There's most of what our agenda is heavily based on your knowledge today. There's not, and so I had the beginning of the show was a little sketchy.
Oh yeah, we had talked a little about why don't we talk about this? How about we talk about that? And then I ran away.
Right, and I'm not at liberty to talk about some of those things. It's not my job to talk about how things are going to be reopening.
Exactly. So we didn't have quite the conversation that we were going to, but this is to hear a faith story. I mean, that really that's an important thing, and that's one of those things that is simple evangelization. When we talked about that a few days ago, and when some of you asked, well, how do I speak to my non-Catholic neighbors or friends or coworkers or whatever when they ask me about the faith? That's what you tell them. Don't tell them Jonathan's story.
God's work in your life.
Exactly.
They can't dispute that.
Exactly.
They can't. There's nothing. It is your story, and you cannot change that. Would I encourage people to donate to Focus? Yeah, I still love Focus. There's just like with anything, I don't agree with everything that happens sometimes there. But as an organization, they are sending out missionaries to college campuses, which really that's the battleground. Particularly
if you know one of those kids who are a Focus missionary.
Yes.
That you can support that person personally.
Right.
And in a number of parishes, there are kids in college who decide that they're going to do a year or two or more of Focus missionary work. Yeah. And they have to fundraise their own salary to
it's 100% fundraise their salary. So they don't get anything free.
So if there's anyone that you know in your parish or in your family or friends that you can support, that's great. I would do that.
I still have a couple of my disciples from Maryland are still on staff with Focus, even all these years later. So it's a great apostolate, and it really is the battleground. I think once you leave high school, people make their own decisions. They're on their own, and that's really when a lot of people get lost. A lot of people thought, oh, they'll come back. They're not coming back anymore.
It doesn't happen automatic.
They are not coming back anymore. And
the world has changed.
Yesterday they had a huge day of giving that I think up to $250,000 worth of gifts would have been matched, even to individual missionaries. Jill says that is a current missionary. I don't know if that one's with Focus. He did have... Oh, okay. I don't know if there were Focus missionaries, but they are missionaries. So any missions, it's great to... Part of your tithing should probably be to missionaries where we are reaching out.
College is one of those places where people find their faith. They find their faith,
or
they find their vocation, or they lose it. Because you're at that time where you really now are thinking critically. You're not in your little cluster of friends that you've been with for the last however many years, and you're starting to open up and decide, like, oh, who am I? What do I want from life? How do I understand God and or not? And to be moving forward.
Very cool. Well, Jill has 2 sons with Focus that were with
awesome.
Focus.
Awesome. Well, wonderful. We have a couple of notes to put forward, Jonathan. First Friday, first Saturday here at St. Charles, we are going to be inviting people in to do adoration before the Blessed Sacrament exposed. So a great way to start hungering and adoring the Eucharist, the Lord that is present among us.
In that first Friday, we don't have Mass right at 7.
No.
Mass will be at noon still.
You're not allowed to come to that. So you are allowed to come to the adoration that begins at 7 o'clock if you sign up on our Sign Up Genius, which you can get to via our website.
And there are still slots available.
We are still limited to 10 people in the building at any given time. So that is a Friday overnight through Saturday at 11:30 when benediction will be given and live streamed. We will have a live streamed crowning of the statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the church tomorrow afternoon at 3. At 2 o'clock, the bishops of the United States and Canada will be consecrating our countries to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, once again, reconsecrating them. And I know Archbishop Gomez of Los Angeles is the president of the Bishops' Conference, and so he will be doing that from Los Angeles, I believe, at 2 o'clock Central Time. So he was kind enough not to interrupt our 3 o'clock crowning here at St. Charles. I think Archbishop Gomez is a watcher of the program, so
we appreciate you.
Thank you, Archbishop. And so we will honor Our Lady and pray for her intercession in our life. There will be vases around the statue, so if you want to make a visit up in the afternoon or while you're doing adoration, you are certainly welcome to bring flowers to place at the feet of Mary. So we just keep asking for her intercession, especially in these strange times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, tomorrow hopefully we'll be a little more normal, a little more organized, and we'll know a little more about things. So stay with it. Stay healthy.
Stay warm, because it's going to warm up today.
Jonathan, it's not that cold. Yesterday with the wind I thought was cold, but today it's beautiful. I just think it's a